Patient comes back the next day. Patient is sedated with general anesthesia. It's not sedated. Patient is under general anesthesia. It's very hard to adjust the bite that day. Patient is coming back the next day for me to adjust the bite. 5 months later, patient is ready to be restored. What do? We don't want to waste a lot of time. It's very easy for you to get lost at that stage. What do we need to do? We need to capture the 3D implant position. We need to capture the soft tissue. We take the right pictures to go forward, to move forward with the final prosthesis. We need to have a duplication of the converted prosthesis, maxillary and mandibulary, and you take a bite. With all those information, with all that information, we can move forward with your case. Temporary cylinders, and I will select the EasyBar over that. Once I have the EasyBar, I will connect with pattern resin. Once it's connected, after 4 minutes, what I will do is I will take it out. I will do like a finger test, and then I will add extra acrylic to make sure my jig is completely stable. And that's it. I learned that technique with Pincus because Pincus is doing those cases over and over and over with doctors all around the US. And he told me that in advance, with this technique, I don't have any issues finalizing the cases. And it's true, I don't have any problems delivering my cases. All my zirconia crowns, zirconia prostheses go in passively. Once I sit that, I will take an X-ray to make sure my jig is seated, because after that, that's it. If the laboratory comes to me and says, the temporary prosthesis doesn't match the final, I said, don't worry about temporary. What you're going to follow is your master model. That's your reference. Forget about the rest. Trust your master model. It's like when you're flying and you're flying with instruments, it's exactly what they are doing right now. They need to trust the model. I will inject light body material under my jig, and that's my final that's my final impression. That's the way I do final impressions. And that's the intaglio of the final impressions. There is no trade there. Even though, even talking to Pincus about it, we talk about this and he says we can do everything digital, but it's a must to have a master model. Then I can just verify my prosthesis to make sure it sits properly. Okay, with all that information, I send back to my laboratory, to the guys in the lab, Sean and David. They will design the case. They will design the ideal bite, ideal aesthetics. The maxilla is being established. I cannot change anything in the maxilla because the maxilla dictates my aesthetics. I'm going to just take my mandible and match to my maxilla. I know that's what my occlusion will go. This is my design. This is very important. My second visit, I will bring my patient back for a try-in of the temporary that is an exactly replica of my final restoration. At that time, what I'm going to do is I'm designing a new temp, the ideal temp that's supposed to be exactly like the final. I will check the intaglio of my prosthesis. I will check with PIP. I will make sure there is no excess pressure on the tissue. And I will check the occlusion. I will adjust the occlusion. Why? Because the best articulator that you have is your patient. I will use that in my favor. I will adjust the bite. If I need to add, usually it's minimal. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take the Optibond FL, the single dose. I'm taking the bonding agent, and I'm going to start slowly adding bonding agent because it's very little. And that way I will equilibrate the bite. And if I need to adjust to remove, then I will use articulating paper. And that's the way we have our final design. One thing that changed my practice is a stone jig. If I don't want to waste any time, if I want to deliver the cases like Pincus used to come and used to play with me, okay, let's see if you can, your record right now is 3 minutes. I can deliver a maxillary and mandibulary prosthesis, double arch, in 3 minutes. And he keep teasing me if I can decrease that. The only way for you to do that is Once you equilibrate your temporary prosthesis, you have that. What are you going to do? You're going to take that prosthesis that was equilibrated in the patient's mouth. You're going to mount that on your master model, and you're going to make a stone jig. Why? Because your final zirconia should sit on that stone jig. That way, you don't have any adjustment, and your bite is going to be dead on. That's the way that the tissue is, and that's the way we finalize the case. We have abundance of attached and keratinized tissue. Like Dr. Garber said, tissue is the issue, and Dr. Salama mentioned this morning about it. Protection design, zirconia functional areas in the incisal edges. That's mainly when you are doing feldspathic over the zirconia. In our case, in our office, we do everything monolithic. We don't have that. Occlusal guard is mandatory in implant cases. Even in a single unit, it is, in our office, is mandatory to give a patient an occlusal guard, especially nowadays. Minimal 2 millimeters around screw channels. Maximizing incisal edge thickness to do not have chip on that, and provide shallow anterior guidance. Maximal cantilever length, 7 to 9 millimeters. Basically, it's a bicuspid and a small molar. The height, the minimal height, ideally, if I can have 12 millimeters, it's fine. It was a lot, this one was a lot more than that. I would say this one is probably like what, a 15, 17 millimeter